The driver on the bus says move on.
A little girl and her mother, both diagnosed with an extremely rare cancer, are beating the odds and changing the way that doctors treat their disease. Tonight, an ABC 13 special report, a life worth fighting for.
And summer-like warmth across the region today, but cooler for tomorrow. Your full forecast coming up on 13 News at 5.
Anytime, anywhere. Award-winning coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we begin with an ABC 13 special report, a life worth fighting for. One Lynchburg family's bout with an extremely rare cancer is shifting the way that doctors treat it. In a day and age when genetic testing is extremely controversial, they're willing to share their story and let doctors put them under the microscope. And researchers say their whole story, one you'll see only here on ABC 13, is changing medicine.
How was school?
Good.
What'd y'all do?
Mommy.
Ma'am.
Between the carpool
He can have some yogurt.
and the kitchen, the Gilger's life may seem typical. But there's really nothing typical about Edie, Emily, Nick, and Kenzie's story.
The driver on the bus says move on.
Their lives took an extraordinary turn 5 years ago when Edie was diagnosed with cancer at 6 months old, neuroblastoma.
Say the camera's on. Of course I'm smiling.
Chemo, surgery, none of it worked.
Say hi.
Genetic testing revealed that little Edie had a mutation in one of her genes called the ALK gene, passed on by her mother. Of the 600 to 700 kids per year that develop neuroblastoma, only 1 to 2% have that defective gene. Like a light switch, when it's turned on, the ALK gene produces cancer cells so aggressive they are resistant to traditional treatment. To beat the cancer, doctors at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia hoped that they could turn the gene in Edie off using an experimental drug called crizotinib.
Ready?
And when it worked, I brought you Edie's story here.
A little girl from Lynchburg fighting a very rare form of cancer made the pages of the Wall Street Journal.
And it made headlines across the country.
She started her crizotinib. 28 days later, it's gone. You know, no tumors.
They called it the 28-day miracle. Today, Edie is cancer-free.
We saw, you know, it always gets me, but there's parents that go home with an empty back seat. And we don't. We've never had to experience that.
I spoke to Edie's oncologist at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, Dr. Yael Mose, by Skype. She says this little life has helped them understand how to save others just like Edie.
I never would have imagined what this family would ultimately teach us and the path that they would take.
Little did any of them know what doctors were learning about Edie's form of neuroblastoma would ultimately help save her mother's life, too. In fall 2013, another miracle for the Gilger family. Emily was pregnant. Doctors tested her unborn child, and once again, another miracle, the baby did not have the ALK gene Edie was born with. Then the pain started.
I was 7 months pregnant. It was about the middle of April this time last year, and I was having some pain up the sides of my back.
She's got a very high pain tolerance, but there'd be days where she'd be doubled over the bed, just trying to stand back up.
My adrenal glands were 10 times their normal size.
And that's when I knew immediately that, in fact, she had developed neuroblastoma during pregnancy.
How can this possibly happen? This is a pediatric cancer, and I'm a 36-year-old woman.
That's when Edie's oncologist at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia became Emily's doctor, too.
So we always knew that Emily was at risk. But what we really didn't know is what is the risk as you get older.
In a matter of days, at 31 weeks pregnant, doctors delivered Emily's 3-pound baby boy, Kenzie. They wanted to make sure that the cancer didn't spread to him, and they wanted to start her treatment immediately. She began taking crizotinib, the same drug that worked so well for Edie. But mother and daughter didn't respond the same.
Real bad pain in my legs, both of them, like I had run 5 marathons.
Simply put, Emily couldn't tolerate the drug. So Dr. Mose put her on a new ALK inhibitor showing promise in Japan called alectinib. Things got better, but further tests revealed a hormone that indicated elevated cancer activity in her body.
And I think that was sort of the changing point where we knew that maybe it wasn't the medication that could deal with this. So that surgery was 2 days before Christmas.
Edie, can you say Merry Christmas?
Merry Christmas.
Doctors removed all of the tumor on the left side, 85% of the tumor on the right side.
Quite a discovery and quite a success.
Emily and Edie now take medication together every day to keep that ALK gene turned off in different flavors.
So I take 4 pills twice a day, and at the end of each cycle, which is 28 days, I go and have my blood drawn.
Dr. Mose says they now have a better idea of how to treat this genetic predisposition to neuroblastoma because of their research on families like the Gilgers.
So we're really in a new era, and these patients are exquisitely sensitive to the right drug. They benefit remarkably.
I think it's put into perspective what it's like for all of these children, and for all of, and I mean, being treated at a children's hospital, you know, all of the patients that you see are small individuals fighting for their life. You gotta finish your yogurt.
Now, a year later, in the moments where life looks normal, Emily says it's starting to feel normal too.
I'm at a good place as far as my health is concerned, I feel like, and so I'm sort of trying to write that chapter off and hope that neuroblastoma does not come back ever again.
And while a lot of families dealing with 2 cases of cancer might focus on what's going on just under their roof, you're going to find the Gilgers hawking lemonade or dishing frozen custard, spearheading fundraising efforts for Alex's lemonade stand. The foundation has raised more than $100 million, all towards funding more than 245 pediatric cancer research projects. They also help families like the Gilgers with expenses when they're going through treatment. Now, the Gilgers are doing a big stand at the Lynchburg Community Market on June 6th. That's from 8:30 to 12. Go on out, help support them, buy some lemonade, and help other kids, other families fighting pediatric cancer.